Every big idea, whether it's building a massive skyscraper or just launching a simple app, it follows this kind of hidden path. Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on that path. We're going to break down the project lifecycle, phase by phase, and really understand that journey from just a spark of an idea all the way to the finish line.
Yeah, that's it, right? Projects are a process. They're not some single event. They've got a clear beginning, a really busy and, let's be honest, often messy middle, and a defined end. It's never a perfect straight line, but there is always a path.
So why even bother breaking this journey into phases? Couldn't we just start? Well, without them, it's pretty much chaos. Phases give a project a spine. They provide the structure a team needs to focus on what matters right now versus what can wait. It's all about building on a solid foundation, one step at a time. And here it is. This is that 5-phase spine in action. It's a model that's been proven time and time again. It takes us from initiation to planning, right through execution and monitoring, and all the way to a clean closing. So this is the map we're going to be using for the rest of our explainer.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. Every single project starts with that first spark. In the world of project management, we call this the initiation phase, and it's where the most important question of all gets asked.
Seriously, before anyone writes a single line of code or pours a yard of concrete, this phase has one job: to answer the big question, should we even do this? It's all about getting that green light and a super clear direction before you commit any serious time or money. And getting that green light isn't just a simple thumbs up. It involves some really crucial groundwork. You've got to pin down the main objective. What does success actually look like when we're done? You draft a business case to justify the whole thing, and you run a feasibility check to see if it's even possible. And critically, this is where you figure out who the key stakeholders are, the people who really matter, and you appoint a project manager to lead the charge.
Okay, let's make this real. For a massive project to build a copper mine way out in a remote part of Argentina, initiation wasn't just some paperwork. It meant literally assembling a leadership team that had experience in these harsh environments and physically setting up 3 strategic offices. They were building the project's foundation before a single shovel ever hit the ground. So you got the green light? Awesome. What's next? Well, you need a map. And that brings us right to the planning phase. This is where the big what if becomes the detailed how to.
This is the stage where that big, kind of abstract idea from the beginning gets broken down into a concrete, workable roadmap, a plan that the team can actually pick up and follow day in and day out.
And a solid plan covers all your bases. You clarify the scope. What are we actually doing? And just as important, what are we not doing? You build out the schedule, you create the budget, but a great plan is also defensive. You think about what could go wrong and manage those risks. You set up a communication plan to keep everyone in the loop, and you define exactly what good looks like with quality targets.
And back at our mine in Argentina, their planning was meticulous. They created a single, massive, integrated schedule that linked every single task, from design to buying materials all the way to construction. And they built a super detailed budget to track every dollar. This wasn't just some document, it was a roadmap they could actually execute on. All right, we are now in the heart of the journey, the build. And here, 2 phases are actually running side by side. You have execution, which is, doing the actual work, and you have monitoring, which is making sure all that work is still heading in the right direction. You've got to think of these 2 as a constant dance. On one side, you have execution. That's the daily grind, the craft of actually building the thing. On the other side, you have monitoring. That's the art of steering while you're moving. You're tracking how you're doing against the plan, managing changes, and communicating honestly when things go off track. You just can't have one without the other. For a mine project, the execution phase was loud, it was tangible, it was heavy equipment arriving on site, it was crews physically building the structure, and it was the project team constantly adjusting to all that turbulence. The unexpected challenges that are going to hit every single massive project. So the last piece of equipment is installed. The final report is written. You're done, right? Do you just stop, turn off the lights, and head home? Not quite. A professional journey doesn't just stop cold. It crosses a proper finish line. And this is our final phase, the absolutely crucial closing phase. Project closing is so much more than a final we're done email. It's a formal process. It's about finishing well, dotting all the I's, crossing the T's, and making sure the value we've created is properly handed off so it can actually last. So what does that really look like? Well, it means formal handovers. You officially transfer what you've built to the operations team that's going to run it every day. You get formal sign-off from your client. You close out all the contracts and reconcile the finances. But maybe the most important thing you do here, the real gold for the future, is you capture and share the lessons learned. What went right, what went wrong. That knowledge is priceless for the next project. And just as you'd expect, the Argentina mine project concluded by the book. The finished mine was formally transferred over to the client's operations team, all the project offices were closed, final reports were issued, the books were reconciled. It was a clean, professional finish, allowing everyone to move on to the next challenge. And this, right here, this brings us to the most valuable idea in the entire life cycle. Projects, by their very definition, have an end. But the learning, the knowledge you gain along that whole messy, wobbly, amazing journey, that should never, ever end. So that leaves us with a question for you. Think about the last project you finished. Could be big, could be small. What is the one lesson from that experience that is just too valuable to forget? What's that one piece of learning that you absolutely have to carry forward into your next journey?